আসসালামু আলাইকুম দর্শক, ওয়েলকাম ব্যাক। আমরা একটু লম্বা এড ব্রেক নিচ্ছিলাম, আমাদের ইন্টারনেটটা একটু আমরা শুধরিয়ে নিলাম। I believe we now have internet back, and let me see if I can bring you those two photos. Let me tell you the rules again. When I show you the photos, you will see the two photos. The studio number is on the screen. If you recognize the two photos, please phone in with the names. You need to name the people on in the photos. What we will do, we will note it down, note your name down, and if your answer is correct, in the third segment, we will enter all the people's name who actually correctly answered in a hat and pick one winner. And the winner will receive a meal for 5 people. And if you are from outside London, we will give you cash £50. So let me have a look if I can get you the slide. Please be with me for a minute. In the meantime, Emdad,
Yes.
we were talking about local people benefiting from businesses, sponsorships. Tar Hamlets, where we come from, is a very deprived area. Please enlighten us how sponsorships are a great source of support for young people in Tar Hamlets.
Well, as I touched on the subject very briefly, we can take this as just a standalone subject for a show in itself, and even then it wouldn't be sufficient. But if we take a team like Stepney Football Club, for example, and we look at people like Farid who are in the studio now, Stepney legend, I should add, and one of the most successful managers in the club's history, and a complete byproduct of the affiliation with Stepney Football Club. I take one case in example. When Stepney Football Club went to India on tour, do you think, or any of my esteemed panel members here, do you think this would have been possible if everybody had to fork out from just their pocket? So club members, volunteers, administrators worked tirelessly in the background in negotiation with sponsors, some of whom were local, some of whom were mainstream as well, in order to secure these opportunities for young people to gain an experience in life which they will never, probably even in their adult life, ever experience again. Now, I challenge anybody to defy me on this and say that the group who actually traveled in an example like this, the experience that they gained and the development, the way they developed themselves from their experience and the positives. I mean, it wasn't just about football. They went out to India, they went out to the slums in India where they met children and young people who are of their same age range. And they were able to compare their life in Tar Hamlets, where we might think, although it's a deprived area, we've got it tough here. And then you go to a slum or a shanty town in a developing country and you see the contrast between your lives and people on the other side of the world as well. You can't put a price on that. And this became probable, and this dream became reality simply because of the sponsors pumping in money and having belief in these young people.
Farid, your Stepney FC has taken young people from these deprived areas to lots of trips abroad and also within the country. How valuable do you think sponsors were for you to organize those trips?
That touched on this. The India trip, for example, I think the total cost for that particular trip was around £40,000. I think if you relied on grants or people, forking the money out of their pockets, I think that trip wouldn't have happened. The reality is, though we were lucky and fortunate enough to have some multinational companies involved within that process. And the tour, I'm not allowed to mention companies, am I here?
No,
yeah,
apparently not.
Apparently not. So one of the companies that were sponsoring our club actually had an academy in India, and they hosted us the whole tour. But it wasn't just a matter of young people getting the money and we flying out to India. They had to work for it. So it was learning and development for young people as well. They had to learn how to go and present and do pitching against some big companies. And they had to learn how to do presentation. They had to, sell themselves basically, in a sense, to say how they would cope and benefit from that tour itself. And the tour was actually, it was a great success. Like Imdad said before, you know, if people didn't have that sponsorship deal in place, I don't think they would have been able to go out there and see the world. I mean, some of these young kids, don't forget, you know, they probably haven't left their local areas, let alone travel abroad. You know, it's the first time for them to go on a plane, see the world, the reality of poverty and others. And I think when they came back, I'm sure a lot of them actually benefited and came back as a better people as a result.
Okay. Jamal, let's move on to a different subject. And the subject is, you actually went to Bangladesh, India, and many other countries there. Sometimes you also went to play in the United States. Now, how important do you think that sponsors, what a role sponsors played in those trips? Because sometimes it's very, very difficult to make those trips possible unless we have the support.
Exactly. Well, when myself and our team, when I was younger, 1990, we went first trip to Bangladesh. We had a bit of a sponsor, luckily, them days. But you know, any trip, like the other panel members mentioned, any trips you need sponsors, and if without sponsors it's not possible. It's a huge amount of money for a trip of 22 or 25, 30 people. You know, going to a different country, everything is you have to pay for. I was lucky enough to going a lot of trips with Sonali Othith, but luckily in our age, veteran, it's hard to get sponsors. But we had some supports from local businesses. But I was lucky going America, like you mentioned, about 4 times playing there. But my whole trip was with the tickets and everything was sponsored. So I was lucky in that sense. If it wasn't for sponsor, then I probably wouldn't have gone to America and play. So a lot of people are going nowadays, and you know, sponsors definitely you need every single trip or even here to develop the football in our community.
Imdad,
Yes.
from a journalist point of view, what a story. Local businesses sponsoring local teams, especially deprived teams. How does the media world come into it and support these kind of stories and this kind of environment?
I think it's a very relevant and important question, Arman Bhai. And when you look at it, it's an amazing story. When you look, if we keep on saying Tower Hamlets as a case in example, but we are front runners when it comes to this model of business and interaction between the community and the business community as well. A lot of the businesses that are pumping money into ventures, footballing ventures, as we're talking about here now as well, they are also stakeholders. Their children may be attending academies, be it at Stepney or Newark. You know, at Stepney, for example, we've got under 12s football. We insist on parents standing there. So it's not a drop-off crash session where the parents can come in and they drop their children off, they go shopping and then come back. And they have to either participate in the training session or stand there on the sideline. Now, we've had offers, it hasn't materialized yet, but the thought is there. We've had offers of sponsorship coming from those parents who have been watching us on the sidelines as well. T-shirts being provided, equipment being provided. We also had footballs being provided as well. So like I said, there's in most of these instances, there's usually something personal very much attached to it as well. From somebody who is born and brought up within the community and who still works and volunteers, for me it's fascinating. There's not enough writers who focus on this relationship and how important it is. And I myself find it incumbent upon myself to report on this on a daily basis, because somebody has to take this story about this support and the way this arrangement has been set up to the wider community. And what it is as a writer nowadays is, because of the power of the World Wide Web, little old me writing a little article on my laptop in my bedroom, if I'm quite savvy about it and if I share it properly, it can go viral. So I know, for example, with the Sonali Othith tournament that we had, and I made a great point of should we say, highlighting the sponsors involved, simply because of the support that they were providing. And like we already discussed, it wouldn't have been possible without their support. I made a point of highlighting the monetary interest and the financial backing that these sponsors had provided. Now, I've got people from within my own blog or the newspapers that I write for, and on my channel as well. I can categorically say now on live TV that I've had inquiries and queries being made about these businesses and these projects from South America, in Australia, in New Zealand. So as you can see, the impact, although we're working on a local level, the impact itself is global.
Thank you, Imdad. We will, again, viewers, go for another break, and hopefully the internet will be more favorable to us. We will try and get those photos to you as soon as we can. Assalamu alaikum.